Thank you so much. Thank you, my friend of so many years, Senator Jim Buck. Thank you for your kindness. Thank you to State Representative David Frizzell, another member of the American Legislative Exchange Council Board of Directors. I'm deeply humbled by your kindness, because I know who you are. I know the example that you set. And as Abraham Lincoln said, my only ambition in life is to be esteemed by people I esteem. And so let me thank you. Let me thank you, Senator Buck, and all the members of the Board of Directors, your CEO, Lisa Nelson, your National Chair, Leah Vukmir from the great state of Wisconsin. Welcome to the American Legislative Exchange Council. I was for ALEC before it was cool. Such a great gathering of men and women who stand for common sense conservative principles in state legislatures all across America. I am so delighted to be able to welcome you to the Hoosier State, and it is so great to be back home again in Indiana myself today. I've had a few things come up in the last few weeks, and I just got home in time for the governor's motorcycle ride, but I was not going to miss the chance to welcome the premier gathering of state legislators in the United States of America to the Hoosier State. I appreciated very much that introduction, Jim, but you know the introduction I prefer is a little bit shorter. I'm a Christian, a conservative, and a Republican in that order. But I'm really here to say welcome, and I'm here to say thank you. Thank you for the work that all of you have done in state legislatures across the land. I know what it's like when you have strong, common sense, conservative leadership in a state legislature. 31 Republican-led states across the United States of America are setting the pace in economic growth, in education, innovation, and outcomes, in welfare and in infrastructure. And it is the bulwark of men and women serving in the state legislatures who are coming alongside those great leaders and making all those great results happen for the American people. If you'll allow a little bit of personal pride, I know the Indiana delegation is at this table. Would you all please stand and let me thank the folks that I think are the best state legislature in America, including, would you join me in thanking the Speaker of the House of Representatives in Indiana, my friend of nearly 4 decades, Brian Bosma. Indiana is a state that works, and as I've had the great privilege and a few more opportunities these days to talk about Indiana on a bigger stage, I mean a lot bigger stage. I got to tell you a funny story, though. When some of you were kind enough when I came in and mentioned a speech that I gave last week in Cleveland, and I have to tell you, I was a little bit nervous coming out on that stage. I breathed a quick prayer, all right? But I walked out in the crowd. The best advice that I got is people said to me, you know what, before you go to the podium, go find the Hoosiers in the crowd. And I did, and your smiles and your good wishes and your prayers and your support set me on the path that night, and I want to thank you. That was a great, great moment to see you all there. But I am proud. I'm proud to brag about what Indiana's doing as much as all of you from all the states that are so well represented here. We in Indiana, I think, are a story of what common sense conservative leadership can do in a very short period of time. And the truth of the matter is, the better part of 10 years ago, Indiana found ourselves in the condition of most Midwestern states, earning the reputation that some people still describe this part of the country with as the Rust Belt. It seemed like our economy was struggling under heavy taxation and regulation. Our schools had gone unreformed for more than a generation. Our infrastructure had been neglected, and the whole process of innovation at the state level had been set aside. And then we elected my predecessor and our administration and strong Republican leadership, and just in the last 4 years alone, it's truly been humbling and remarkable for me to be governor at such a time as this. In the state of Indiana, we actually have we've managed to make record increases in education funding, and we are home today to one of the largest educational voucher programs in the United States of America. Building on the momentum of a Major Moves program in my predecessor's administration, our administration has invested and appropriated another $2.5 billion to make sure we live up to that moniker, the crossroads of America, on all the Welcome to Indiana signs. And Indiana, I'm proud to say, is home to the most advanced Medicaid reform in the history of that program. That we confirmed this week, the Lewin Group produced a report in our Healthy Indiana Plan 2.0. Now 7 out of 10 of our new enrollees are choosing the plan that they have to pay for. Health savings accounts have arrived in Medicaid, and it's because of the people of Indiana. A dedication to our people and a belief in personal responsibility and empowering people. In the midst of doing all that and making those innovations and reforms, I'm pleased to report to you we've been able to cut taxes every year that I've been governor. Nearly $3.5 billion in tax relief has been enacted in just the last 4 years. It'll take effect between now and 2022. And after all that, demonstrating that common sense conservative leadership works every time it's put into practice, Indiana this year reported the largest budget reserves in the history of our state, and we enjoy a AAA bond rating from all the major credit rating agencies. I couldn't be more proud of what the people of Indiana have accomplished with common sense, conservative principles. And it's quite a contrast to what we've seen at the national level, isn't it? It really is incredible. Last night there was another speech on television. I stayed up pretty late watching it. But what we heard was more of the same. At least what I heard was a commitment to more taxes, more regulation, more government, more of the same failed policies that have landed our national government $19 trillion in debt. And I want to say to each one of you today, my function here today is really to welcome you to the Hoosier State. But I hope you can see. You can see standing before you from a week ago in Cleveland that we have a choice. We have a choice in this election today to turn our ship of state at the national level in the direction that so many conservative, Republican-led states have chosen to go. It is the path of less government, less taxes, less regulation, more jobs, more opportunity, and more opportunity for our kids and our grandkids to get a world-class education. You know, the stakes really couldn't be higher in this election. And the choice really couldn't be more clear. It really is remarkable when you think about the choice that we have before us. My wife Karen isn't with me today, and I really don't know where she is. We're kind of, you with me on that? Some of you people in public life, you with me? Okay. But I'm going to meet up with her later today. We're headed over to Dayton, Ohio. But my wife's favorite poem is actually a Robert Frost poem. She's got memorized, I don't. But it talks about two roads diverge in a woods, and I took the road less traveled by, and it made all the difference. You know, in your states around the country, with 31 great Republican governors across the country, with great conservative legislators, you've been able to take the road less traveled by. And really, it isn't about just advancing free market principles. It isn't just about advancing educational opportunities through expanded choice. It isn't just about fiscal responsibility and tax relief. It's really about improving people's lives. And it's about understanding that those of us that are called to public service have no other obligation. I mean, one of my favorite adages of the Boy Scouts of America is their slogan that you don't leave a campground as good as you found it. You leave it better than you found it. And I truly do believe that what we're seeing in Republican-led states with great conservative legislators like all of you that are gathered here is improving the lives, improving the fortunes, improving the opportunities for Americans, and you are the model for Washington, D.C. after this election. You truly are. You know, I spent 12 years in Congress, and I've been 4 years as a governor. And I always like to say that if I only had 12 years left to live, I'd want to live it as a member of Congress, because that was the longest 12 years of my life. Okay, they like that at that table back there. Just explain it to rest of the people. No, truthfully, I mean, the simple fact of the matter is that our founders designed a national government and a form of government that was extremely inefficient. And it was because they designed, I believe, in my heart and in my mind, they designed a limited government under the Constitution of the United States of America that was defined by the exclamation point that is the 10th Amendment of the Constitution of the United States. And I want to speak to you about that. I want to speak to you about the centrality of the states today in the few minutes that I have with all of you. And that if I have the great privilege to serve as your next vice president, what I can assure you, our next president, the importance that he will place on empowering states with the resources and flexibility to design and build solutions that work in your own states and in your own communities. But before that, let me say two other things about the national level that I think bear saying. You know, I woke up this morning and I thought we'd have a lot of political coverage on television, and then my heart was heavy again with the news of yet another brave law enforcement officer, this time in San Diego, who lost their life in the line of duty, and another who was injured. Just this last Monday, I received a call that an Indianapolis Metropolitan Police Department officer was injured in the line of duty. He is thankfully recovering from his injuries. But in these challenging times, times of testing for those who serve in uniform at every level in this country, I hope that all of us will take this opportunity, to those who are present, who are with us today, to those who are looking on, to make sure that those who stand on the thin blue line of law enforcement know that we will always stand with you. And before I leave the national level, let me also say, as this national election approaches, those of us, and I know all of you in ALEC, cherish the Constitution as I do. And I think as we approach this election, we need to think long and hard about the implications of this election to the Constitution of the United States and the Supreme Court of the United States that is charged with interpreting it. It is extraordinary to think that while we are electing a president for the next 4 years, we may well be deciding as a nation the direction of the Supreme Court of the United States for the next 40 years. I truly do believe that we are come again to that fork in the road. Whether we will have justices appointed to the Supreme Court, as my partner in this endeavor is committed to doing, that reflect the brilliance and the greatness and the principle of the late Justice Antonin Scalia, or whether we will have more justices who will not so much uphold the law as oftentimes rewrite the law. So I would say to all of you, for the sake of the rule of law, for the sake of the sanctity of life, for the sake of our Second Amendment and all of our God-given liberties, we must ensure that the next president making appointments to the Supreme Court of the United States of America is President Donald Trump. Now let me turn my attention a bit more to all of you and to my hero in public life. You see, I grew up in a small town in southern Indiana. I had a cornfield in the backyard, and my dad was in the gas station business. But when I got started in politics, I was a Democrat. I was actually the Youth Democrat Party coordinator in Bartholomew County in Indiana in 1975. It's kind of a community organizer. But then I began to hear the voice of the man who would become our 40th president. And in his ideals and in his eloquence, I heard what my Irish immigrant grandfather were the reasons why he told me he came to this country with a one-way ticket across the Atlantic. never to see his mother for another quarter century. The ideals of my father, kind of a hard-nosed small businessman who served in combat in Korea and came home and built everything that matters, a family, a business, and a good name. And so I became a Republican, and I joined the Reagan Revolution. And it was Ronald Reagan who, in his first inaugural address, the very first thing he said to the American people, I think now as we look on, so many years later, bristles with relevance for our time. When he stood up, he said that it was important to remember that the states created the federal government. The federal government didn't create the states. And he went on to say to the American people, go look it up. It was the very first thing he said to the American people, that it was his aim not just to reduce the size and scope of the federal government, but to restore to the states those resources and flexibility that were theirs under the Constitution of the United States. Ronald Reagan was passionate about federalism, wasn't he? It was incredible. In 1982, he actually came to our state legislature, and seeing nods in the room, I'll bet some of you have got those speeches on the wall in your chambers as well. He traveled all across the country, and he talked about the need to restore the proper balance between the federal government and the states. He created a federalism commission, he would call it, and he gave speeches all across America. Standing before the Indiana General Assembly, he actually said, he spoke words that, he said, the federal government has, quote, taken too much money from the people, too much authority from the state, too much liberty with the Constitution. Those words are chiseled on the wall of the Indiana General Assembly. And I could tell they were chiseled in his heart. But the truth is, even though he offered dozens of federal programs to be restored back to the states, that just wasn't something that people were ready for, okay? But I think we are now. And I want to say to each of you that my running mate and I have talked through this. We both are passionate about the Constitution, we both are passionate about the states, and we both know and believe that the cure for what ails this country will come as much from our nation's state capitals as it ever will from our nation's capital, and we shall aim to restore the balance between the federal government and the states in our Constitution. But as I close, let me say one other word of encouragement, and that is that in these challenging times, at home and abroad, I do hope we remember, as I said last week, that for all the divisions that seem to gain attention and focus, seem to particularly be rewarded in the media, as every conversation seems to have to be about this person against that person, I think it's important to remember that what unites us in this country and always has is so much more powerful than what divides us. And the truth of the matter is that this is a time when I believe all of us should, to the extent that we are inclined to, we should take time to repair to that well of strength to which Americans have always gone in troubled times. I pulled a quote from Alexis de Tocqueville. I used it a couple of times earlier this week, and I'd like to leave you with it. Alexis de Tocqueville came and he toured the newly minted country. He was fascinated by it and wanted to understand the American experiment. And he wrote after his travels, quote, I sought for the key to the greatness and genius of America in her harbors, in her fertile fields, in her boundless forests, in her rich mines, and in her vast world commerce. In her public school systems and institutions of learning, I sought for it in her democratic Congress, in her matchless Constitution. Not until I went into the churches of America and I heard her pulpits flame with righteousness did I understand the secret of her greatness and power. He concluded, America is great because America is good. And if America ever ceases to be good, America will cease to be great. So as we come together, my fellow conservatives, as we look at the next 100 and a half days ahead, I hope that we will work, that we will tell the story of what common sense conservative principles have done at the state level in this country and will do at the national level. But I also hope that those of us that are inclined to do it will also put into practice that ancient truth that if his people who are called by his name will humble themselves and pray, he'll hear from heaven, and he will heal our land. Thank you very much, and God bless you. And thank you for coming to the Hoosier State. It's an honor to be with you all.